So Sandeep is an acclaimed national award-winning visual effects supervisor who was awarded prestigious Silver National Films Silver Lotus Award in year 2013 for the best special effect in movie called Jal by then the President of India, Sri Pranab Mukherjee. And I know Sandeep since young age in school, and he was an amazingly gifted artist, be it any form of fine art, be it painting, sketching, sculpting, mechanical tinkering, and his passion for creativity was further fueled under many acclaimed artists and guides. And he took an offbeat path of animation, graphic design, and gaming in year 1993, which we call it as pre-digital era. So that was a very, very bold step, and that really sums up his personality of an adventure traveler also. And during those days, only the courses were available in the big cities only. So he has to carve his own niche out of self-learning mode. He learned it and he mastered the art through his sheer passion for this, the amalgamation of art and technology, which is what special effects, visual effects, or animation or gaming is. So he has been an amazingly curious person, has amazing perseverance, and a lot of passion about it. So, my first question is, Sandeep, if you can tell about your entrepreneur venture currently.
I run a small boutique called Limitless Studio, which is my partnership with one of the big production house called Rashmi Sharma Telefilms, which has a strong presence in television space. This company has also produced movies like Pink, apart from TV series. So reason I tied up with this company was because of common vision of doing something new in the TV space. Also, as TV serves mass kind of audience, it is very secure for steady work and for doing any kind of business. You need steady cash flow because if you try to do something new, it's not easy to fund your dreams. This is because of my past experience because I was into games, I was into films, and later I decided to include television also because I realized that this is something which I ignored, but this is the one which has got better cash flow. Okay, so idea was to fortify my company with a steady source of income while we chase our own dream of building our own IP and doing high value projects, innovative and technical technology driven thing. So yeah, I have a team of 100 people who work on both television as well as film and advertisement, and we also work on some experimental kind of advertisement which is more tech driven, so it can be interactive storytelling, just like games, but it is actually video, something like Bandersnatch which came on Netflix. So those kind of thing, sometimes we mix virtual reality, augmented reality into our storytelling. So yeah, this is the kind of work we are doing now, and we want to change the game of the whole industry with technology.
Uh,
Sebamed. Best protection from day one.
When did you turn into an entrepreneur from an employee?
It was like twice I tried to become entrepreneur. First time, it was purely I was working in Ahmedabad. Over there, I realized that everybody is working hard, but there's a dream, but no vision. So there's a difference between dreaming and having a vision. So
Correct.
I realized there's no vision, and everybody is just dreaming and uh, lapping up every project coming in because they have to take care of cash flows and all those things. So which again derails from their dreams, and every time it's offsetting far and far, far, far. So I realized this is not the way I want to work. I need to start my own company. So I started with a small animation company in Ahmedabad, doing some projects with NID. I knew a lot of people over there, just to do some work with them. And also from Bombay, I had some connections. We used to get work in from Bombay and execute in Ahmedabad. It was much cheaper. That time, somebody would put it on hard disk, put it in Ahmedabad, in Bombay courier, in a jet flight. We would receive it in Ahmedabad and then work, send it back to Bombay. Then earthquake happened, then riots happened. So every time business would get affected. So I had to move to Bombay because most of my clients were in Bombay, and it's a company called Prime Foods. They saw what we were doing, so they said, "Why don't you move to Bombay? Bring your team. We will." So I also have a strong kida for technical thing. So I wanted to start animatronics, which is using robotics and all those things. So I got lured with that, and I said, okay, I'll close my business and come to Bombay to work with Prime Foods. That time it was a small company, but in technology you can't be ahead of time. You can be ahead of time and you can't be behind the time. You have to be right on the time. So we were ahead of time, and that was not working for us. So they said, why don't you take care of visual effects, CGI, and all those things? So I was absorbed as a head of CGI and VFX, and I had to figure out how to push boundaries over there. So yeah, so I started working with Prime Focus again in a job, and then I realized that I'm really limited because my limitation is my client's vision. And everybody talks about Hollywood films and all those things, but nobody's coming pushing us. So they're bringing us references of what has been done already by Hollywood and other people, and they would settle for something uh, very, very mediocre. So I felt that this service is also, though we were dependent on client, but you need vision from a client which can push our boundary. And if that is not going to happen, we will be still doing same mediocre kind of thing. So I decided to move on, start my own company where our primary vision will be working on our own product, our own IP. So it's like climbing up the value ladder, becoming client ourselves, and also keeping some room for service, just for cash flow generation. So yeah, and then from that time it's been learning experience. Like we had so many problems, we fell back, again we bounced. So we realized that okay, if you have a problem, I mean you reach a ditch somewhere, you move forward. There's no point standing there. You have to take few steps back so that you can gain momentum and jump over it. So with those mistakes, we improved ourselves, and without mistake, you can't learn. So yeah, so that, and then I've never gone back to job.
To ask, like, what are the opportunities in the VFX animation mobile gaming section for India to be a global leader in this sector? Like, what are the opportunities do we have right now?
Honestly, practically, we can't say global leader, simply because our language thing, our primary language is Hindi.
Hindi.
So yeah, so for us our market is small, and English for America and other British, English being the language widely spoken, so whatever content they make, it is for global market. Everyone uses that, so they have that advantage for sure. But we can take advantage of our skills, also our knowledge of English, so to become a outsourcing hub, also like a development country where ideation can be done by them, because everything has to be cultural. Like if we want to do something for American market, you have to understand the culture trend really well. So if something is developed there at a console level, it's easy for us to execute here because we are good with that's how it is in the software industry also. So for that, definitely India is a very big hub, and of late most of the work is 70-80% of the work is happening in India. Yeah, and also if they decentralize it from Bombay, if it moves to smaller cities, there's a huge cost benefit also, because now everybody in a smaller town also, they are aware of a lot of things. So skills are there. So if you have more companies serving this particular animation or VFX in a smaller city, there's a lot of cost benefit.
Okay. So like as you're suggesting that we should have some medium small enterprises who should be starting and teaching this job and making workers who like the employees to be skilled. So like what are the suggestions that you would want to give to those young budding entrepreneurs?
See, anything needs proper research, understanding of that particular area. So we have to study the area which we want to get into, study the market, and like if you want to do your own content also, you have to do a bit of research that how you can make something cross border. So we have to also study the trend, and to bend the trend, these trends, like you need to understand what's going on and how you can strategically change the trend also. So those things are needed, definitely. Sometimes it is gut feelings, like you have strong gut feeling, and then after that you can start strategizing things.
Question. So how does the ecosystem for an entrepreneur now has changed as compared to early 2000 when you started versus now in 2020 for some entrepreneur who want to enter into this field, let's say VFX or the gaming industry, I mean, especially in India?
Yeah, just because of internet and social media, everybody is visible. Anybody can start thing from anywhere. So I'll give you an example. There some people, I don't know what's the status of the studio, but there was a studio in Patna working on Hollywood project. Who can think of having a studio in Patna? Okay, then there are studios in Nepal, Kathmandu, working for Netflix and American clients, and one of the most preferred studio. So opportunities are there. I mean, you build your, you start with a minimum viable studio, work on a proof of concept to show what you can do, start pitching. Don't spend a lot of money, make something which is small and viable as a proof of concept, and start pitching, make partnership with people. I think that way they can break some ice and they will be able to get some doors open. It's possible anywhere. I mean, it's like you don't have to be in bigger city. Yes, if you want to cater to Bombay, you need to be in Bombay, that's for sure. But after this lockdown and people experimenting with remote working and all, now think it will be much more open. So you need to have a robust tracking project management thing which client can have visibility and trust in. So that transparency of working and data security, privacy, all those things has to be taken care.
The talent is easily available in India, and how did you build up the talent? Tell us some journey. How did you build up your team?
There's a huge range of talent. Like some are highly motivated, less skilled, highly motivated. It's easy to groom them because when somebody is highly motivated, they can teach themselves. You just need to give them direction and they will learn. And then there are people who are only looking for security. They're skilled, so they'll do something really good in their specialization, but they don't want to expand. So there is a mix and match of all kind of thing which works for a company. So you need people with generalist mind who are willing to jump into, because those guys can do a lot of research, R&D, dig out new things. So most of the time it's like new technologies nobody knows. You have to explore, do experiment and learn. So people who are that kind of enthusiastic, it's really even a small team can gear up very fast, because like it's said that necessity is mother of invention. So if you want to know something, you will teach yourself very fast. So I have done in my life a lot of projects which I didn't know certain things, and because just to do the project, I picked up tutorials and all, and finished the project to the quality client wanted. Then there are people who have not done any course. They just did fine art or something. So we get them, we train them into software. So that works. Sometimes we have got pure freshers and train them in a particular skill. So they gave us better result because they were focused on one thing at a time. So we have to identify those kind of people also whom we can use for research, who will be good for delivering quality. Right now, what we lack is number of visionary people who can demand, like if Spielberg had not asked for Jurassic Park would not have happened. Similarly, it's for Avatar. So it's Cameron's vision which made it happen. Same way, like we have Rajmouli who did Bahubali. So people who are pushing the boundary. So somebody at that level, if we have more those kind of people, our industry will expand, because these are the catalysts who can take us up and up with more and more challenge. People can rise up to that level of all kind of expectation. Somebody has to create that kind of expectation.
Tell me about your favorite project, your all-time favorite project where you really love delivering it, and your most challenging project also.
So far, I have not got anything which is challenging, and because like when we compare to Hollywood and Jurassic Park of that time, we are still way behind.
Okay.
Of our own, I mean, obviously we have worked on Hollywood projects and all, but those are not our project. Okay, it's like working for somebody on outsourcing. My most interesting project was Kahani, where Kahani is like a more realistic film than 550 VFX shots, and nobody knew about it because it was seamlessly integrated in the film. So at no point people can think there's a VFX in it because VFX was blended into the storytelling. So far that has been one of my most enjoyable project. And with Sujay Ghosh, every time I try to work in that way, like he wants to work with VFX, but he doesn't want people to know about VFX. So with always with him, this association is very interesting.
And how did you float that project back to your team? Like there must be many challenges with your team, and organizing them and delivering them, timelines and various other things.
Thing is that everybody wants a simple job, which is like it comes and you should be able to finish it and go back home in time. Everybody wants that kind of thing. So they expect films to be shot in a particular way so that it has least amount of work. So normally they'll expect camera to be static so that it is easy to work. But something like that, Kahani, where camera was all over the place, it was just moving, floating everywhere. So I didn't stop. I didn't do anything which normally supervisor will say that ye mat karo, wo mat karo. I didn't give them any constraint because I felt that there's always a solution in the problem. So I allowed them to go freely and shoot the way they want. So it was more like a documentary kind of chasing, going along with Vidya Balan. And then once the project came to the floor, I told my team how to tackle it. So there was also a blessing in disguise because they were camera movement. So whatever we could do, they were motionless. So there were always solutions for every problem. So when you see the problem, that time automatically solution comes. Without that problem, you don't get new solution. So my team also rose up to the challenge and started working on it. And then it became much easier for them that, okay, and they'll figure out. So once you challenge them, they figure out.
I wanted to know, like, what are your latest projects on which your studio is working now?
One project I'll tell, it's called Bob Viswas. It's a character spin from Kahani, the guy, bald guy who goes to kill. Yeah, so this again, Sujay Ghosh, he's producing the film and his daughter is directing it. So that is one project. And apart from that, there are a couple of projects which I can't say because of NDA thing. Yeah, and two television show which is on, one is on Z, it's a Mytho show. So one is on Z and one is on Star Bharat.
Game of Thrones and there's a Mahabharata.
Yeah.
Why India is not producing like that kind of the classic style of, we have a mythology, either Ramayana, either Mahabharata. What do you think it will happen or not happen in our lifetime?
It will slowly reach there, because so far a lot of directors, the people who were the decision maker or filmmaker in the position of power, they were not technically savvy. Like people who make Game of Thrones and all, right from producers to directors, they have some awareness of using technology, and obviously a lot of people are educated in their basic thing about physics and all. So in India, we defy physics, okay, logics, and because everybody come from normal storytelling. So that is definitely one aspect which now the new generation of filmmakers, they are better with logics and all. So I think soon we'll be able to see things which are at the level of that. So as I say, it is the person, captain of the ship. He has to have a vision and he should be demanding. Once if he's demanding, it should be like he should be demanding, and then he should know that what it takes, money wise and time wise, what it takes to do something like that. Because when all the Indian studios are working on all this international project for Hollywood, why can't we do it for India? Of course we can do for India. We need our clients to raise up their expectation.
Is the cost also a parameter while for Indian producers or directors while taking such projects? Because the Hollywood films or the international films or video series or like TV series would be having a large budgets in millions of dollars. I mean, if we talk about the Avatar or so probably. I mean, is that also a deterrent for Indian cinema taking such kind of technology?
Yeah, it is for sure, but not as much as how much they spend in Hollywood, because obviously the work goes to a Hollywood-based post-production house, and from there it gets distributed all the way. So here in India, we already have cost advantage, and we are skilled. So it's a matter of a proper project management, and something like we started following very agile methodology these days. Okay, which is more iteration based. So agile is mostly used in software development. So if we start using the same technology in a creative thing, it becomes more you can say collaborative, at the same time very fruitful process, because first iteration you lock what is the backbone, or you can say skeleton of the thing, then keep improving, and the final iteration you polish it, finish it. So if the filmmakers, I mean South Indian directors, they're anyway doing it, they started to do it. So more of that kind of thing happens. Definitely budget, I don't think budget will be a big challenge. In international market, international films, they have right balance of budget for VFX and technology driven thing. Here most of the time, if you work with big stars, half of the budget is gone for the big stars.
True.
So now trend is changing, because when Bahubali became successful, nobody knew who was Prabhas in the north. Okay, so if with that, if people producers understand that the story is the main thing, important thing, and how you execute it with good acting and all those things, definitely, I mean, they can make something at international level. And if you're making something Mahabharata with some logic in it, physics and all in place, I think it can travel because on Netflix you have regional content going international. So definitely Mahabharata has a lot of potential. It has philosophically and visually, it can be spectacular. It is nothing less than Game of Thrones.
So I believe we have come a long way from like early 1900s when black and white movies were there, where dinosaur movies used to be made by keeping dinosaur statues over a car and moving those cars. I mean, I've seen those YouTube videos and all, to Jurassic Park and now to Avatar and the 300 kind of movies where the technology has taken us by swamp, and we have just gone to watch the movie just for technology itself. I mean, leave the story and everything apart. But like people went, wow, what is the technology? We needed to see this movie because it has been created by this technology. So just wanted to understand your view, like how next 10 years in this field would be, like what kind of technologies are upcoming. And since you are an early adopter of technology, आपको वो technology वाला कीड़ा है आपके अंदर. I mean, you're that kind of such person, I mean, who love to adopt new things. So what is like how the next decade कैसा होगा in terms of these technologies?
See, एकदम बोलना मुश्किल है कि क्या क्या होगा, बट एक चीज मैं बताता हूँ कि वर्चुअल टेक्नोलॉजीज विच इज रियल टाइम टू सेव टाइम, because in past 10 years nothing much has happened. Okay, quality ka improvement is there, definitely. Technology was nothing happened, but last year only virtual technology has taken over. So which is if I have a scene, I work a lot in the pre-production. Okay, and during the pre-production planning I do everything, and when I'm shooting, everything will be captured on the camera. I don't have to do much in the post. पहले क्या होता था कि I will shoot against green screen and all those things and then bring it to the studio, फिर उसके हिसाब से background जो भी करना होता. अभी क्या हो गया कि using game engines which are real time, so game engine has become as powerful as your offline renders and all those things. So whatever I am doing on set with motion capture, performance capture, my virtual character get the same immediately, maybe few second lag, but it is prepared and the shot is scanned and then I can send it for edit. I don't have to do further post production in it. It's a huge saving of time, where this the process for each shot would be weeks. I'm getting on the set. It's like live action. Like pehle ke zamane mein, when there was no computer, they would do using miniature and all kind of thing, and then they would have glass matte paintings and all those things, like Ben-Hur and all those things. They have used those kind of technique. So now this will be more realistic kind of thing in using this technology. So that is one big leap in the film VFX side. Also, this will be useful for animation, because animation also used to be like go through a lot of process, production process. Now we will be squeezing down the production process. We will be expanding the pre-production process. So, and pre-production is always important. That's where the look and feel, the treatment, everything is decided. So people, once they are clear about that, they're sure what they want to do, it becomes very easy to do the production part. And the production part is using technology and real time, everything real time. You squeeze the whole production process. A week can become a day, year can become months. So if I want to do like a TV show, animated TV show, if it takes per episode takes 1 week to do, I would be able to do it in a day, because my actors will be performing and their performance will be mapped to the characters, and that's it. You send it to edit. Otherwise, it was very painstakingly. Everybody would animate handmade things, time things. So it's like first you do the body thing, then you do the facial thing, then you have the dialogues, lip sync. So it was a big process. Now you can do everything at the same time, real time. Adoption of gaming technology in film has even Avatar benefited from that, using a lot of virtual tech. And then recently you've seen Lion King, it heavily used virtual camera technology.
We are in mid of COVID situation and everything is at standstill. There's no production happening either on TV side or on Bollywood side or on Hollywood side. So there seems to be a great opportunity in terms of animated movies, which is purely done in the studio environment, where you don't need to travel to locations and hire actors and all those things. So how do you see this trend coming in?
I think that trend is there, but it's not like easy for anybody to jump into it, because animation altogether is a different ball game. So it's not easy for a VFX company to get into animation, because it needs a different kind of knowledge, not just the technical and execution part, but even the distribution side, like selling, having clients. Unless you have a lot of money to develop your own IP, and then once you have the content, then you figure out how to sell it. Otherwise, it is not that easy. But obviously, in this kind of situation, animation is something which doesn't depend on shooting and all those things. If you have your pipeline ready, your artist can work from home remotely. You can collaborate with people sitting across different place without being on a physical same location. So whoever is venturing into it, definitely, I mean, it's a good thing. And right now it's mostly the animation studio who are already working in one studio environment. They started to spread out, like what you it's more like units. Okay, so in an agile way it works because you can work in cluster, you can work independently. Some people can be at home and work, some people can be in a small remote team working from different part. So all you do is club them together using software management tools.
Right. You are in a business of creativity, art, plus technology, but you are dealing, after all, with humans only, and all the creative people. On your employee side, they are also creative people. On your client side, they are also the creative people. So at times they don't like your work. So how do you handle them?
Because it used to mostly in advertisement, it used to happen a lot with us initially, where we used to get some directors who had no clarity what they wanted. It's like a lot of people who think they are creative, but it's like they don't know they are creative because they have very abstract thing in their mind and they're not able to articulate what they want. So it's a bits and piece of this and that would confuse us. And because we were not good, we were not aware of such kind of thing कि ऐसा होता है. हमको लगता था सभी creative बोल रहा है. So we would work hard to understand what they want, interpret what they want, slog ourselves and do something based on their feedback. नहीं, ये नहीं था. So it's like, and sometimes some would their creativity will trigger only after seeing our first iteration, where would have spent a lot of time and effort to make something, and then they say nahi, इस पे ये कर लो. So we realize that this kind of thing happen. People have very abstract kind of brief, and there's a lot of ambiguity. So to avoid those ambiguity, we started working with a lot of pre-production where concept art and storyboarding. So we narrow them down in their vision so that we help them to visualize it clearly. And once they say, okay, this is exactly what we want, that is when we start doing the production. So that saves us a lot of time.
What was your happiest moment and how did you celebrate it? And what was the moment you say life is going to end, but you found a solution? And how long it took the journey and entrepreneur life? There are moments which is bad, you say life is going to end. So can you share, and how did you overcome both?
Whenever I'm doing something and I see the result, that's the happiest time. And whenever things are not working, my mind is working to solve it. So like disappointment is there momentary, but then immediately the mind takes over to figure out a solution. We stop it, think about it. So it's always that mind start to solve problems instead of sitting and worrying about it. I'm saying, like, from my school time or any time doing something, if when you're doing a painting, say, and it is not going the way you want, you keep painting on top of it. Finally you get it. So like I'll say my brother's example. He would whenever he would try to draw something, my elder brother, he would draw something, and if it goes wrong, he get angry, he will tear the paper. So instead of trying to fix it, he would get angry and will tear the paper and say मेरे को नहीं करना है. So and I was learning from all kind of people who are elder to me and all. So I would find way to only improve things instead of getting him. So that's been constant in my life, that instead of getting disappointed, just figure out. So the only thing, like as I said, that when clients are not happy, they keep making you go round and round, and you realize that okay, फंस गए हम लोग, क्योंकि now because of taking this project, we know we can't make him happy because he's got something else in his mind. It's going to be difficult. So we Normally it's mostly some of the directors. So we openly speak to the producer that, see, this is the case. So we are stopping it here, and we need to him to tell us what exactly he wants, and we'll give him. So that's how we started. By communicating, you will figure out a way of getting out of it. So yeah, by communicating or doing things, you'll figure out. But कभी ऐसा नहीं हुआ कि अरे हो गया. I had to close down my company. Once I had to close my company, Intermezzo, for whatever reason. I mean, because that time I didn't understand business and financial things and all those things. And you know, in creative business, it's like Baba Ramdev ka yoga. Like when you have project, you want to have more people, and with more people, after the project is over, what do? You need to get more work. So it's like you keep growing with work. So you have to know where you want to stop, when you want to say no. But in the beginning of thing, we get into this kind of situation where, like Baba Ramdev ka yoga jo bol raha hu, ki टांग वांग फंसा लिया आपने, okay, इधर उधर डाल दिया, then you don't know how to come out of it. So you have to avoid that kind of situation.
So now, with all the wisdom, knowledge, and experience you have today, let's say you had all of this knowledge in early 2000, and then you were restarting. You had to restart. What different you would have done, if anything?
It's difficult to say, because I don't know. I have all the wisdom and all, because whatever I have is only some of whatever I've gone through and learned from it. I'm still not a millionaire, or I'm not like successful like so many other things. So I can't say I know everything. I have to look forward. Past में तो कुछ बोल नहीं सकते, because without those things I would not have reached here. So I would be making more mistakes and moving forward. So only thing is that I'm not scared of making any mistake, because there's nothing to lose. Every time you make a mistake, you learn from it, and you take a bigger leap from that. In entrepreneurship, you have to make mistake. You have to be not scared of making mistake. You can't be perfect. You are not perfect. You can't be perfect. And like my company's name is Limitless, because I believe that we are, as human, are limitless. We don't know our own potential, and we have to make mistake and learn from that, and keep opening our horizon. So we have to unlock that limitlessness kind of thing. So we cannot limit ourselves. It's like when we say, "Are mistake ho jayega," that is when we are limiting ourselves. So hoega mistake, but it will teach you something. So to open yourself, you should be ready to make mistake and move forward.
So how did you take out the time from your busy routine and go to places like the places we have not even heard about? Is it because of your projects, or you just go and like out of nowhere you just visit places?
Initially, I used to travel because of work, but it's just visiting a place. It was not going there and living, experiencing the place. So also I was interested in a lot of history, ethnography, culture, a lot of things. So I decided that after my work, I would stay there for longer time to understand the place, try to be local for some time in that place. So with that, I started, and decided, like also in India, it's like we live in a continent. So without traveling in India, I mean, you can't say you've seen anything, because it's like a European Union we live in. So different language, different culture, different food. So you need to travel within India as well as out. So that's how I decided that I should travel, be there. So bike was one of, in India, I travel by bike. I enjoy that, because when you travel by bike, when you go through interior place, you are almost treated like an astronaut, because the moment your bike with helmet and your whole biking gear, you reach there, villagers, and they all stop, and you get free tea. It's like you're treated like an astronaut, simple as that. So I enjoy that. And when you travel international, you get to learn a lot about yourself, your own culture, civilization. Because when I was in Siberia, in a place called Ulan-Ude and Irkutsk, which is south of Baikal Lake, and I think it was 6th June or July, Dalai Lama's birthday, with a holiday. And I was like, what? Everywhere Dalai Lama's photo. And I realized that the majority religion was Buddhism over there, and we think that Russia has Buddhism, and that too like a big number. So it definitely opens your mind. And then in Irkutsk, in ethnography museum, I saw one uh, like a huge rock, which was like many years old, with something written in Pali language. So it is excavated from in Russia, written in Pali language. So somewhere we were connected. And then I met one uh, like a red Indian in Baikal Lake with a wigwam. So we asked, "What are you doing here?" So they were just showing, having kind of like an expo presentation to show that how they were connected with Asia. So in olden time, when Bering Strait would freeze, they would migrate from Russia to Alaska, and from there spread into America with their reindeers and huskies and all those things. So this traveling, you get to learn a lot of things, that how somehow we are connected somewhere. So it makes you more, you want to do travel more to know a lot more. So I traveled to other former countries, that is USSR former countries like Uzbekistan, went to Turkmenistan, and got to know that I always thought that Mughals are Arabs, but then I realized that Mughals are not Arabs. They come from the former Russian countries. Yeah. So, and also how our language is influenced by them. Their food, our food is in a lot of influenced by their food. But when Mughals came, they brought that food, and in India they improvised it to a different level. So how things mix. So it's that's why you want to travel and travel more and know about this. It opens your mind simply.
Where did you love to be a localite in the best way in your travel? Like you said that you have to be a local wherever you go. So
Yeah.
where you loved most to be a local outside India?
Bali was interesting because like I had a driver, and his I asked him, "What's your name?" So, Suryaputra. I said, "Oh, son of God," and he was like shocked. How do you know the meaning of Suryaputra? Do you know Sanskrit? It was like, so then I said, "No, I'm from India. It's fine." So he asked me, "Are you Hindu?" I said, "Yeah, sort of. Like we are all Hindu in India." So to prove him, I had to recite Gayatri Mantra, and then he was convinced that I'm from India. So I tell them that in India, everybody is Hindu. Like even Muslim people are Hindu because Islam is their religion, but they're Hindu. So the culture is Hindu, and that is what is truth from olden times. So which you can see in Indonesia also, because even though Indonesia is Islamic country, they still have Arjun, Gatotkaч, Krishna, all in their stories.
Yeah.
So even Garuda is there. The
Ganesh
king,
and Lakshmi
Sultan is protected by the
on their currency.
So Garuda of Vishnu. Yeah. So it's like religion is something, but culture is, they preserve their culture. So that was pretty much interesting for me. Where here in India, we are divided in the with this religion kind of thing. So I tell them that for me, Hinduism is not religion; it is a philosophy of living, which every Indian is in India is. So that guy was like, "Uske baad mein to he would take me for dance show, which is like local, yeah. And I've been there a couple of times, and it just feels like you're in some South Indian country. It's like stuck in a Chola dynasty. Their rituals and all are like ancient Indian Hinduism. Sometime in Russia, like I visit there for work. I have a couple of friends, so I visit there for work in Moscow. Collaborate with. See, also by traveling, you also find out local studios and all. Figure out way of collaborating with them, because that also helps a lot. I mean, in opening your mind, and we always had collaboration with Russia from old, ancient time in films. But after the breakup of Soviet Union, everything stopped, and they had really good technicians. So I worked with a Russian studio in a Netflix series called Typewriter. They did fantastic work for us. So yeah, that also, there's association with other foreign studios, uh, with this international travel, find out there are new studios, what they're doing, what kind of work they are doing. And once they know you, they don't treat you just like a client. Once you become friends, become like a family, then you figure out a way of making things work.
Thank you very much for spending time with us.